how do I say this? Arsenal. I've never seen a team criticised so much for being good, Rory. Now suddenly there's anger that your manager decided that he doesn't because he doesn't want to have a guaranteed named number one goalkeeper. Suddenly now that's evil. That will ruin football teams, and managers never before have rotated goalkeepers in football. Talk to me.
Yeah, I don't really. The thing I find weird is that as much as Arteta insists that there is no number one goalkeeper and that he sees goalkeepers the same way he sees outfield players, that there are 2 players for every spot and they compete, like a lot of people just demand that he's not telling the truth and that Raya has replaced Ramsdale, and I don't think that's the case. And yeah, look, he wants to try it, and he's a young manager. It's his first job. Let him try it. If it doesn't work, we've got 2 keepers and we can drop one of them. So I don't really see any potential downside of doing this long term. And look, Raya looked fantastic yesterday, and I think we'll see Ramsdale in the Champions League on Wednesday night. So no drama.
I love how I heard it was still Mikel Arteta's first job. He's like 5 years into it now.
It's 10 years into his job. It's going to be his first job.
15 years down the line, if he's making mistakes, it's still his first job.
He spends 30 years there. Yeah, love it. I wanted to ask the panel this question, though, because I saw people tweeting this yesterday. I think some people put it into the group chat. The Arsenal have been less convincing, not as good, and therefore not as big a threat this season because they're not scoring as many goals. Talk to me. Are Arsenal not as good?
I don't think that it's a problem that they're not as good. I said it last season. I feel like a lot of their players were just in top form. They're generally in the best form of their life. So it's one of those things, just when they're hitting the ball, everything's going in. They're just getting that stroke of luck at times. And I feel like that's why they were putting so many teams away. A lot of their players are just playing good. And now at this time, they've got a mixed bunch. They've got a few players that are out of form, just aren't at their best. And they've got a few players that are playing good. And they're just having to chop and change it a bit more. They've got a bigger squad, so they're having to utilize it. And now you're seeing Arsenal just struggle a bit more to break down teams, but then they're utilizing other players to come in and changing the system. So I feel like they're growing more as a team, but the individual players, they're not relying on individual brilliance to get them through games as much. And they're just not getting those goals. But I feel like take away the goals, they're playing just as good against these teams. And you saw the way they broke down Everton yesterday. That was complete dominance. Like Everton really didn't do much where you could say that they should have won or had chances. The last game at Goodison Park, Everton ran Arsenal ragged. That midfield, they could not handle. And you could see the big change in this game of how Arsenal handled it. So for me personally, I think Arsenal are a better team. They've just grown more and they're just not scoring or feel the need to put away teams as much.
Listen, yesterday, Everton, I think the number one point is that Everton should get relegated and Sean Dyche should be illegal to manage in the Premier League again. That's number one. It should be illegal. But Arsenal yesterday, I saw something that people didn't want to talk about it. And when I said I praised Saka yesterday, I think he was better than the games before. They were doubling and tripling on him yesterday, but people still want to criticize him for not dribbling 3 players and dribbling the goalkeeper and dribbling the fans and scoring the goals, even though he provided the assist. So I'm just going to give him praise when praise is due. To be honest, Arsenal yesterday, Declan Rice looked like he's everywhere. And again, he was always an option for everybody on the pitch. I have to praise him there. It's not only he wasn't static, he was very dynamic on the pitch. Fabio Vieira looked okay, to be honest. Odegaard looked more dynamic. Saliba makes defense look so easy. And David Raya's distribution is miles ahead of Ramsdale. Yesterday, he connected all the long balls he's required to do. And I think Arsenal made the game look so easy. They didn't even break a sweat. If people think that because it's 1-0, Arsenal were fighting hard, they weren't. They tried the same corner routine 3-4 times until it worked. People don't want to give Arteta credit, so I'm going to give him credit for that, to be honest. It's the same routine because they knew that they couldn't compete with Everton on corners if they cross it every time. Credit to Arteta for that. Arsenal look more mature, as George say, and they look all right. Yes, they're not scoring goals because teams are not just attacking them like last year. They are treating them as a bigger team now. This is it.
I think
when you teams don't want to attack you. Teams want to sip off you. Teams want to make you make the mistakes. Teams want to annoy you. And I think that was Arsenal's downfall at points last season. When they went to Goodison Park, I felt like they got into a rut last season where what they normally do didn't go off at the start and then they panicked. This year, it wasn't any of that. They it's maturity. They have learned from where they went wrong last season. I think Declan Rice, I'm just happy that now Declan Rice is starting to get the credit the man deserves, because for the past 4 years, all I've been getting told is he's overrated, he's crap. He's a top DM. Just because he was playing for West Ham doesn't mean he's not good. He moved to Arsenal, he's been superb. The Martinelli one could be a worry, but this is why you've got depth. This is why you got Leandro Trossard there. They're a good side, Arsenal. They're a good
think,
side at the minute.
I think in terms of this whole that we don't look as good and that we don't. I actually think we look better and we don't look as fluid and especially, and it's funny to contrast it with Tottenham because everyone's saying that Tottenham are playing this amazing, wonderful football. They're being given the opportunity to play that football because of their performances last season. Teams aren't sitting in a horrible low block against Tottenham. We've played 5 games this season and all 5 teams have sat in a horrible low block, and it is more difficult to break that down. But that happened in games last season, and in some of those games, we looked like we didn't have a clue how to deal with it. And people have a memory of last season that every game Arsenal were playing wonderful, free-flowing football. We weren't. We went away to Leeds and bullshitted a result out of that we shouldn't have done. There were lots of games last season where we weren't that dominant. And so far for me, I know we dropped points against Fulham, but actually every game we've had complete control. Again, the Palace game, once we went down to 10 men, that made it slightly trickier. But I do feel like we're more in control of every game this season. And long-term, we'll pick up more results because of that, even if it doesn't look as glitzy and glamorous in the final third. So I'm happy with it. And going into the Tottenham game, it actually makes me excited because I hope Tottenham are going to be the first team we come up against this season, if they stick to the way that they've been playing, that afford us some space in behind.
There's no doubt about that.
Do you think
we
will?
We will 100% stick to the way that we play. I don't know. Ange Postecoglou will not change the way he plays. Unlike, I think he'd like Arteta and like Pep and like some of these managers who have very high egos. I think he just trusts in himself and trusts in the way that he plays, and he wouldn't change for any team. And he said it in his press conferences. He's going to continue to attack a team, whether he's 2-0 down, 3-0 down, 4-0 down. He's going to continue to play the exact same way because that's the only way he sees as winning.
I hope so, because I think it'll be a very, very entertaining game if that's the case. And
Rory, but it's only the last 2 games, Rory, that you looked all right. You looked more mature. I think the first 3 games, you looked a little bit panicky. You looked a little bit like off them. I think I'm actually talking about the last 2 games, even against the Man United game. You kept at it. You went down and then you came back right away with a goal that it looks like it's from the training ground. The cut back, Odegaard arriving late, blah blah blah. But before that, you didn't look great. I hope it continues for Arsenal because I want to see teams battle City a little bit. I don't want City to have a walk in the park, to be honest, for this league. I want Liverpool and Arsenal to be good as a neutral. This is just an opinion. Like, I don't want City to walk away with it early. But I think Arsenal, against Spurs, I think you will have a lot of chances, but I think actually it's all going to be down to Gabriel and Saliba, in my opinion, to make it look easy against the Madisons and Solomon, who's so quick, and Kulusevski looks in form. It's going to be the defense who wins any of the team, the game, and I think your defense is way more stable than Spurs defense, especially at home.
Do you know the difference in terms of how we've played as well that you've noticed? It's Zinchenko. I cannot explain enough the difference Zinchenko makes for our team in terms of how we dictate games across the midfield, and the way that now him and Rice are beginning to operate in the midfield is better than we were, in my opinion, at any point last season in terms of that way that we can dominate. Gabriel and Saliba are big. Yeah.
He was stubborn. Arteta was stubborn, and it was going to cost him. And he let away the ego and proving that Havertz is that and Havertz is this, and Gabriel. So he plays Gabriel now. Rice as a DM. He looks okay. He hasn't come up. The way I'm gonna judge Rice, to be honest, looking from outside, is when he gets pressed. He plays against a Tottenham side because Rice is very comfortable in the midfield now. No teams is pressing you that high as well. So against Spurs, I'm gonna judge him in his defensive, which is, I know that Thomas Partey,
especially against a proper DM as well.
Yeah, Thomas Partey not only excelled at being a DM and moving the ball around, he actually was very good in tracking back, covering spacing, knowing when to delay and when to tackle the counter attack for the opposition. He didn't need to do that for Arsenal in the first 5 games, and the only counter attack with them was Man United, and they scored. So basically, he didn't do it. Okay, so I'm just waiting to see that game before people like Tom saying he's world class and he deserves this and he deserves that. So I'm just waiting for him to actually play against a team that is good in moving the ball.
If Arsenal have
we on about
improved,
Declan Rice here.
what's that, Tom?
I'm sorry. If this is about Declan, I'm not having this. Declan Rice needs to prove it against top sides like he hasn't been England's
What do you
best
mean?
midfielder for the past 2 years.
But your midfield is all crap.
Like-
so what are you talking about? I don't, like, what is this?
This idea that Declan Rice needs to play against a better midfield, he needs to go up against a better midfield. No, he doesn't. He's proved it in the past how many years? He's went up against Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, at West Ham, and he has ran games against top sides at West
Ran
Ham.
games.
Why is there
Ran
now that he
games.
needs to do it again? Yes.
Ran games. You just said
Yes.
ran games at West Ham
Yes.
under David
Yes.
Moyes.
Yes.
What are you talking about? How do you run a game under David Moyes? How is that even possible?
You
That's not
dominate the
even in
midfield.
that. That's not even in the checklist. Anyway,
Right, so do you believe that to run a game you have to have more possession? Because I don't.
No,
I believe if
no,
you're
I
if you're
don't.
the dominant player, you run the game.
No,
Declan
I
Rice
don't.
has-
No, I don't.
Declan Rice has ran plenty of games, being the best midfielder on the park.
No, I don't. But you didn't listen to. Okay, you want to do the super chats, of course, Terry.
No, I'm just putting these ones up.
Okay, so
Those
to be
ones-
honest, Tom, he plays now in a position-based team, right? Like Rodri, like Thomas Partey did last year. You excel in both sides of the game, in moving the ball around, being an option to everybody, but also you have to excel in the defensive side of the game, where you stop the counter-attacking teams. When you delay the game, you tackle, you intercept, which is Rodri does, Fernandinho used to do, Casemiro did for Man United last year at home, right? This is what I'm waiting for Rice to do. This is I'm waiting to see him against Spurs, which is based on the first 5 games, they excel at this. This is what my point. He excelled in the offensive part of the game. He excelled in the offensive part of the game in an offensive team, in a position-based team. I'm waiting to see where he can stop attacks from happening, Tom. This is it.
I feel like it's a big difference as well, because you're going to be coming up against one of the league's best creative midfielders. He's going to have to deal with the movement of James Maddison. It's not going to be easy. He's very erratic. He's up and down the pitch. He doesn't just pick up the ball in the third phase of play. He's there from the beginning, from the middle. Like, it's just going to be a big challenge. So I do think it's going to be interesting. Like Roy said, I do think it's going to be an entertaining game. I think the midfield battle is going to be very interesting to watch. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Rice can handle Maddison, just like I'm looking forward to see how Bissouma can handle Odegaard.
It's Odegaard versus Madison, my man. It's Odegaard. Who can run the game?
Well, yeah, it's going to be very intriguing. We'll be previewing that later on in the week. Some super chats here. First one says, hilarious thing is all the outrage. We beat Spurs. We're better off after 6 games than we were last season. We're controlling and nullifying teams way better, is what Highbury Ultra says here. I think people are conflating excitedness for how good you are. Arsenal are controlling games a lot better, in my opinion. Liverpool are more exciting. Arsenal are more efficient.
Yeah, we don't have control.
Chances. Who is a master? Mo is a master. I can't lie. Man is press resistant and deadly on the counter. I was talking about you. Thinks you're press resistant.
You need to be press resistant when you don't support a Premier League team. I mean.
Yeah. I'm really relaxed when my team's doing well. When we're not, I'm fucking fuming and angry and triggered. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. That's why Mo didn't come on after Inter Milan got beaten in the Champions League final, because we can judge Spurs after they play Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Brighton, Newcastle, and then we have an idea of where they are. I think
it's a fair point.
It is fair. I think there's that. Let's see how they handle, again, little things. Let's see how they handle a few injuries. No disrespect. If they had the level of injuries right now that Chelsea and Man United have got, all these things, that's why I think George is right. Enjoy it, celebrate it, but don't get carried away just yet. Would be my advice.